Welcome to AM Best Audio.
Cyber threats are evolving rapidly, and with that, so are the challenges insuring against them. I'm John Weber for Best Review Magazine, and I'm speaking today to Tim Nunziata, Senior Vice President of E&O and Cyber at Nationwide Insurance. Tim, so glad you could join us today.
Thanks, John. Appreciate the time.
So, Tim, what is or has been covered in a traditional cyber liability policy?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think cyber has become somewhat of a catch-all term these days, similar to crypto, and describing a broader industry than it was initially meant to be. At its core, cyber is network security and privacy, essentially the unauthorized access to an organization's system or its data. These base triggers open the door for a number of loss scenarios, including, many of the claims we see these days, whether that's ransomware, malware deployment, data exfiltration, system failure, and business interruption, just to name a few. As the claims activity has increased with new loss drivers emerging, the coverage has adapted to address this and become broader. Therefore, that cyber again encapsulating more these days than it maybe did at its beginning.
So as quickly as the cyber threat landscape is evolving, are policies and policy wording able to keep pace?
Well, it's certainly a challenge. Policy language is definitely the most negotiated part of the insurance placement process these days. During the hard market and recovery period, say 2021 to 2023, much of the conversation was around capacity and pricing, rebuilding sustainable renewal towers for the insureds. As the market stabilized and that supply and demand dynamic softened, coverage became the more talked about part of the renewal. That continues to evolve as carriers work through language and intent. Much of the product is untested. As claims frequency rises, we are vetting these coverages in real life scenarios through the court system. The war exclusion, wrongful collection, biometrics, every 3 months there seems to be a new hot button topic.
So how should risk managers address policy gaps in their cyber coverage?
Yeah, I think what we learned during the increase in ransomware was that, claims were somewhat industry agnostic. I think what the hard market taught us was that coverage can be pretty industry specific. Each industry has a nuanced threat landscape that can't be painted with this broad brush. It's important for clients and risk managers to find tailored solutions to meet their company's needs. It seems great to get the broadest policy out there, but at what cost? Literally, what's the premium, and how sustainable is that placement year to year? Clients should be focused on identifying their vulnerabilities, their risk profile, and building a risk management solution that's tailored to their needs.
What should risk managers be looking for in their cyber policies, Tim, and how often should they be reassessing their needs?
Yeah, cyber policies are typically 12-month policies. I would not recommend reevaluating your cyber risk every 12 months. I think it's really a continuous process. We're evaluating our portfolio on a rolling basis. I think that there is enough data out there for organizations to continue to monitor, the evolving threat landscape. Just because, the policy might not be up for renewal doesn't mean that new bad actors aren't out there, or that the competitive landscape hasn't changed. I think it's important that they're assessing their risk on a daily basis, weekly basis, and continually preparing, for that renewal to have a fully all-encompassing solution for their insurance needs.
So how is Nationwide working with agents, brokers, and insureds to best manage the evolving cyber threat landscape?
Yeah, again, I go back to that tailored solutions. I think what we're seeing is a more intentional approach to coverage, certainly from Nationwide. We've deployed or launched what we call our industry of champions, which enables us to work with our broker partners across all industries and size businesses, not just to become subject matter experts in that space, but to help to partner and to identify solutions for those specific industries. Data analytics have enabled us to be more proactive in identifying loss drivers and causation and make sure that language is appropriate. We talk about the shift in the war exclusion or wrongful collection. How can we continue to quantify that exposure through data aggregation and analysis?
Great information. Tim, thank you for taking the time to speak with us today.
Thank you, John. Appreciate the opportunity.
That was Tim Nunziata, Senior Vice President of E&O and Cyber at Nationwide Insurance. And I'm John Weber for Best Review Magazine.
Looking to get the full attention of the insurance industry? We have the platforms that will do just that. Whether it be AM Best TV, AM Best Audio, Best Review Magazine, or Best Day. Find out more by calling AM Best Advertising Sales at 908-439-2200, extension 5399, and have a great day.